Well, hello and welcome to today's episode of the Power of Your Mind podcast. You're listening to episode number 150, number 150. I'm Victoria Gallagher, Law of Attraction hypnotist and number one best-selling author of Practical Law of Attraction: Align Yourself with the Manifesting Conditions and Successfully Attract Your Desires. I'm also the founder of HipTalk.com and HypnoCloud apps, which gives you access to over 500 hypnosis recordings right in the palm of your hand. So be sure to download that app today from the app stores. Today, I have a very special guest with me, Joe DeMaria. Joe helps coaches, consultants, and peak performers to create online courses and group coaching programs to increase their transformative impact on their audiences, expand their product offerings, and create new pillars of revenue in their businesses. Joe Polish said Joe DeMaria is one of the top course creators on the planet and has unique talent with taking expertise and packaging it. And he can be found on teachtoscale.com, Instagram at teachtoscale. And today, Joe DeMaria is going to be sharing some of his insights on how online courses and group coaching programs can pandemic proof your business. So, welcome to the show, Joe.
Hey, thank you for having me. And episode 150 is a big one, so congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah, yesterday I recorded 149 and I didn't get any kudos for that. So, I guess I have hit the big time today.
Absolutely. This is a moment.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I am really excited about the topic that we're talking about today, creating coaching programs and creating courses and helping the spiritual entrepreneur or anybody who's like a life coach or consultant or just wanting to pandemic proof their business because a lot of people are concerned about the virus or they have no choice
Mhm.
in their own business to be home and I think it's smart to have the type of not just pandemic proof, but it's like it's like business, it's recession proof too, I
Yeah.
believe. It's like any type of out there type of situation that people are experiencing some sort of external reason why their business is not doing so well. I think you can always figure out a way online to make money during any of these hard times. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can thank the marketers for calling it pandemic proof, but in reality, it's just about building something that has a stable enough foundation, that's diversified enough so that when some singular pillar fails, your whole building isn't collapsing. You have enough pillars to what you do that you are able to deal with the ebb and flow of business, and things do change, and tactics that work today may not work, a year from now or 2 years from now. And that is natural, and it's a normal part of the business process. But you've seen, especially in the internet marketing era, so many people get caught out by this particular pandemic because we haven't really experienced for most entrepreneurs that have been in business less than 10 years, they've never really experienced a massive sort of global setback. I mean, it's becoming exceedingly rare to see business owners that were open in '08, for example.
Yes. Yeah, and it's been it's one of the things, it's one of the common themes that I keep hearing with a lot of people. I mean, it's like, oh, I can't afford this right now because my business is not doing well, or there's just a lot of people out there that really need help being able to do this. And so let's just take us back to, like, I mean, when did you start doing this in your own business? How long have you been helping coaches to pandemic proof, not even pandemic proof, but
Yeah.
create online courses and group coaching and that kind of thing?
So it started the way most people start their stuff, which is I was running a completely different business. And I'd started a marketing agency when I was 19 years old. I dropped out of university to go do that, and ran that company. And actually, it's still open. It's been running for the past decade. And it took me into a lot of different client projects with high-end entrepreneurs and coaches and consultants and speakers. And if you run marketing for those sorts of people long enough, eventually you're presented with the, hey, we need to build an online course problem.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably 2013-ish, maybe even 2012, when I first was presented with the problem and I tried to make one, and I did it the way everybody else did it. And, I had my desk full of outlines, and I probably had to like empty the waste paper basket like 50 times because, I just kept crumpling it up, throwing it away, crumpling it up, throwing it away. And then finally you settle on something you feel reasonably good about, and you go back and revisit it the next day, and you're adding things and removing things, and you're switching the order of things, and it starts to become very messy very quickly, and it's hard to be confident in those moments. So I pulled it off for this client, but it never really felt like it was the absolute best we could do. And so, I would then go on and build them in my own company, just to, because I thought everybody needed one in like 2012. It was the right at the beginning of that wave. And still, there were not a lot of great programs. I was buying these high-end, expensive, for 2012, expensive was probably $2,000 to $6,000 courses, and they would be messy. It would be hard to understand what I was supposed to do. It would be there would be points where you're unclear on kind of why you were doing something or what the ascension is. And it never really sat well with me that even in the hyper premium side of coaching, there was such a distinct lack of clarity and simplicity, and really just what I would consider to be a transformative result at the end of it. And so it became kind of a personal mission and a little bit of a battle cry to figure out, how to become a better communicator. Why is it that so many of these high-end coaches, consultants, entrepreneurs, when they're face to face with somebody, they can sit here like we're sitting here and they can create a real result. But the minute you take that online, all of a sudden they're floundering.
Mm-hmm.
Why are so many great coaches awful at producing books that matter, or courses that matter, or group coachings that matter? And it's because it's not when the modality changes that much, the mechanism has to change too. So the way teaching works in that environment has to adapt. And so we ended up spending years and hundreds of thousands of dollars, um, just testing online teaching and just trying to find a better way to teach. So we've been doing that since probably 2012.
Wow. Wow. So you've definitely done your research on what makes these tick, what makes them work, what makes them not work.
Yeah, I mean, I have the scars to prove it. I've spent lots of money making mistakes on these things. At one point, the crown jewel of my follies is spending over $150,000 on a single online course, just for production and all these different things, and then never launching it.
Wow.
And so, there were all these lessons learned along the way that really showed me and gave me the opportunity to see, where do all these inefficiencies in the system lie? Why is it that you can take the best educators in the world in a university environment and put them on an online course teaching the same thing and have their graduation rates plummet, have their retention rates, attendance rates, have their pass rates all plummet? Same content, same person, only variable is the delivery. So we started going through, and it definitely showed us a lot that allowed us to help our entrepreneurs and our clients really start to differentiate themselves from the market, because that was 2012 and it was kind of a blue ocean. There was not that many people doing what we're doing. Now, I mean, every person in the universe comes to me and they already have an online course and they already have this and they already have that. And it's become so commoditized. It's become
Mm-hmm.
so easy to make the course that people are using it as like the lowest level offer on their rung or their ascension ladder, right? And the funny thing is that this commoditization and this lack of genuine care about the quality of the training has made it so that the prices that folks charge in their industries just absolutely, it's a race to the bottom. So the question is, how can you be more effective? How can you be a better teacher who creates better results? And how can you create it at a premium price point that differentiates you from all of the also rans that are participating in the race to the bottom?
Yeah, that's a really good question because the thing is, and I wonder too, with online courses, like if things like Udemy, I don't know which is the proper way to
Udemy.
pronounce that,
Mhm.
but when when the person can go and take $10, $20, whatever online course, how does a person, a coach, a consultant differentiate themselves in that, I mean, because you can pretty much take it on any topic and that,
Mhm.
there's some pretty good stuff in there. So how do you take your idea and turn it into, I mean, there's so many questions I have for you: pricing, getting understanding what that transformation is going to be, finding the right ideal, whatever you want to call it, your ideal customer avatar. So, can you walk us through a little bit of the steps that you might take somebody through to come up with their
Sure.
ideal?
Yeah,
Obviously, obviously you charge for your services, and it probably takes 12 hours, 20 hours, whatever, to to go through a real process, but maybe just like the very top level summary version.
absolutely. Right. So for me, and this is, I mean, you can ask anybody that goes through my stuff. People want to learn how to make a group coaching program or they want to learn how to make a course, and there's all the questions that float around in the universe there. But the real thing that I focus on building with anybody that's coming and asking me questions is, how do we create a business, even if we're building it online, that would have been successful in 1950,
Mm.
1960, 1970? Because all of this internet reliance and all of this internet marketing era, this race to funnelize the world and everything has created some significant threats for the average entrepreneur. And so the first thing that I would have anyone do, and the first thing actually, even when I have high-end clients that come to us like the PayPals or the Damon Johns of the world and people like that, the first thing we do before we agree to do anything is the research. And this is a massive mistake I see most entrepreneurs make because everyone comes to me with the course idea. What they haven't done is gone and figured out what the market wants them to make, which is very, very different.
Mm-hmm.
So it all starts with a question. And the question is one that I did not come up with. This is a Dan Sullivan question, which is, who do you want to be a hero to? You
Yeah.
need to sit down and really formulate who you want to show up for. You cannot be a transformative person in anyone's life if you are just shotgunning information into the universe, right? That's just not how it would work, right? And a lot of this is common sense. So, the first thing is, who do you want to be a hero to? Then your job, and this goes, I'll tell you, like I may not be the smartest person in the world. I have a very cursory understanding of quantum physics, but I could tell you that every piece of matter in the observable universe so far, down to quarks and protons, behaves differently when it's being observed.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't go and do a survey. You can't go and interview people and ask them what they want. What you must do is be as unobtrusive as possible. The way we tend to do that is I will have you, and this is what I do in consulting conversations all day is I'd have you first make a list of what are the top 10 blogs that person you want to be a hero to reads? What are the top 10 books? What are the top 10 forums? What are the top 10 groups or events they go to? What are the top products they might be buying? The only reason I care about all this is I'm trying to figure out what's going on in my prospect's mind. And this is the highest level of research. This is the cursory stuff, but what I'm really doing is trying to find a place where they're having organic conversations amongst their peers where nobody is watching. I mean, most people could tell you this, the way you talk to a spouse or the way you talk to your best friend is very different and more transparent and more emotional than it is when you're talking to a coach, when you're talking to a mentor, when you're talking to, someone whose respect you really care about. You're probably not as transparent. So you need to find where those conversations happen. I'll give your audience a quick clue here that I typically don't give out, which is you can skip the first step and go straight to Reddit, Quora, and Yahoo Answers. Those are conversation engines. If
Mm-hmm.
someone goes on Reddit and they start complaining about, you know, this guru and this product, and hey, this isn't working for me, I feel like I'm failing because X, it gives you a very good macro picture of what is happening in the market. And so my team and I, our job is to basically open up a spreadsheet and start copying and pasting hundreds of direct quotes from our target market that tell us, and we actually categorize them by what I call empathy categories. So are these positive, negative? Are they like triumphant? Are they objections? Are they, and we'll go through and we'll categorize all of them, and we can really see trends start to develop over hundreds of comments. And what I'll do is I'll boil all that down and I'll say, okay, maybe we have 200 direct quotes. What are the big golden threads? And that might be, I did one for dog training, right? And I don't know anything about dog training, as evidenced by how poorly behaved our dog is. But um, when I did it, I was looking, and I saw that the big ones were like my dog pees on the floor for some reason. Um, my dog is always pulling at the leash, and the last one was anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And all I did is I said, okay, these are the three things. And I went to my client and I said, hey, listen, I know if you were going to put this together, you probably have 50 different skills or tactics or techniques, and you'd want to shove them all into the product. And so this is, for anyone listening, this is probably big tip moment number one. Um, your job is not to communicate all 50 of those skills. Your job is to pick a very specific brief. Let's say it's the anxiety one. I would say, okay, out of your 50 skills, which of these three problems can you solve best? And only one. So we'll go probably the anxiety. Okay. Now we have an operating premise for the program. We know exactly what we're supposed to build. This is what at TTS we call a mastery goal.
This, I just have to stop you, is gold. Like the way that you explained that process, I got to tell you, I mean, people should be paying to listen to this podcast of this episode. They should be paying $1,000, which is probably the rate that you charge for your time. I don't know, I'm guessing. But I mean, that piece of information right there, I just want everybody who has been listening to this whole time, to rewind and write that down and do exactly that. I mean, that to me, because so many people, they want marketing advice. They want to know how to, that's where it starts right
Mhm.
there. I mean, it's
Absolutely.
like you have that piece right there. You don't have to sell yourself as much. I mean, you're still going to have to sell because anything, you're in business, you're going to have to sell. But that right there, that's where it all starts. I love that. Thank you so much.
No, it's a wonderful thing, and so many people are self-conscious about selling, and they're self-conscious about, maybe it's like some imposter syndrome sort of thing
Mm-hmm.
of, oh, there's so many people, they've been doing it longer than me, or oh my gosh, look how many followers she has compared to me. And you compare yourself across all these different things, and you realize that realistically, none of those things make any bit of difference in creating a real result for someone. And what tends to be the most effective, results formative approach to coaching is clarity.
Mm-hmm.
And so the more complex, I mean, we get so insecure and we try to stuff every skill we possibly know in there to just hope that in this book, in this course, in this whatever, one of these things will be the key that unlocks your problem. And it is a false premise, because you're going, a mile wide and an inch deep on 50 different topics, and none of those things are transformative. You might as well have just given them 50 different Udemy courses, because the depth is preposterously, like, it's just thin, right? There's not a lot of content or concept. There's certainly no charisma in doing it either. So when you approach it from this singular mastery goal point, you afford yourself several significant advantages. So the first is, people don't buy from you because they like what you do or they even understand what you do. They buy from you because they feel understood. So when you have that
Mm-hmm.
very specific program that solves one problem, very few people have a general issue of my dog misbehaves. It's usually one thing that's driving them crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's one thing, and you
My
made a
cat
6
pees outside of the litter box, like over the top. He misses, like, and like that's, if somebody said, "Oh, you have a bad cat," it's like, no. There's just this one thing.
right, most people have that one thing. And so when you look at just the idea of understanding and communicating with people, it stands to reason, right? And I'm the kind of person where I'm not 100% always the most methodical, but what I do is I think in probabilities. So let me present to your audience a probability. If I gave you a 6-hour program that covered 10 things and only one of them was relevant to solving your problem, what is the probability that you would go through, finish every single video, do all of the work that you need to do, and get a real result?
Probably 1 in 10, probably 10%.
So the general probabilities on somebody actually going through, finishing a program, doing everything you tell them to do within the program in a traditional course is like 1 in 100 of those people will actually do everything. Um, Not great, right?
No, no.
Now, if you make something that's 2 hours long, it's focused entirely on solving the problem. It communicates exactly what the problem is. It never strays from that intent. What's the probability comparatively? Is it higher or lower that they
Lot
would
higher,
finish?
much
Right,
higher.
right. So it's just a basic probability set, which is, it is to say that obviously, if we want to be in the results business, and every coach or consultant or whatever is in the results industry, then it makes sense that we would want to leverage clarity. So, the way to do this before you ever plan anything in your programs, after you do your research, is to pick that one problem you can solve. And I want you to, from the point of view of your prospect, write what I call a mastery goal. The mastery
Mastery
goal
goal.
itself is probably one of the smallest hinges we use to swing big doors at this company. And the format is like this. All you have to write is, now I can blank because you taught me to blank. So
Now I
now,
can blank because you taught me to blank.
Right. So it could be now I can transition my career and become an engineer because you showed me the exact certifications, skills, and technical projects that I needed to, show up well in the market. Now I can, um, you know, I can train my dog, or I can get my dog to stop peeing on the floor because you showed me the exact tools, tactics, strategies I need to train him more effectively to X. And so there's so many ways that we do it, but we always write it from the point of view of the prospect. Because go ahead.
What if you're, so we're focusing on like, like getting that concrete, now I can result. So what if your client, is in the more spiritual type of business, and they want to deal with something mindset, like they want to
Mhm.
be in a better mindset. And of course, obviously, why do they want to be in a better mindset? Well, maybe because they want to, they want to be able to make more money. They want more
Mhm.
gratitude. They want more abundance. They want more, whatever it is, so like what I mean is like sometimes the goal isn't as tangible, like you can't touch and feel it, like you can clearly see that the dog is now trained to do
Mhm.
X. But in some regards they're like touchy feely goals, they want to feel more beautiful, whatever it is.
Well, so you ask a really good question, and I'll tell you, the mastery goal is not a for public consumption thing. It's for planning. So
Mm-hmm.
what it does is it keeps you, the result creator,
Mm-hmm.
like accountable for delivering that thing. Now, if I were to say, do you work with clients on doing that? Have you created that result? You'll tell me, yeah, you have. Well,
Mm-hmm.
okay, then we are
How do
in
you know?
integrity. Yeah,
Right.
and the thing is, like, realistically, at the end of the day, let's say 10,000 people go through it.
Mm-hmm.
In a perfect world, all 10,000 would finish it, have exactly the transformation, they would change their lives and everything would be amazing. In a traditional model, that would probably be less than 100 people that would have a great result. Maybe 10
Mm-hmm.
people would have a great
Right.
result. At least in this approach, with just different intentions set around how we produce it, we can increase that to usually 3 to 5x the same results. So if you're creating those results in a private client business already, or as a coach, or as a consultant, or whatever, you have integrity around being able to say, okay, this is where I'm trying to take them. Now
Yeah.
I want them to be able to walk away from this program if they do absolutely everything I tell them, and they'll be able to, now I can, uh, or now I have a better, more abundant, focused mindset because you showed me how to blah, 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 right? And
Got it.
so again, it's more than anything the quality of training in the business, the spiritual, the entrepreneurial has dipped significantly because education has been democratized out. Anybody with a webcam or an iPhone can hit record and put something up in days. And it looks on a Udemy or anything like that just as credible as a program you might create. Well, that definitely pushes some significant problems into your space as the business owner. And the biggest thing we can do is focus on how do we have a better standard of intention? How do we have a better standard of education? And it really starts with something as simple as the mastery goal. I do it for interviews. I set mastery goals for conversations. I do it for webinars. I do it for, you know, like basically anything. If you're doing YouTube, you can do that, Facebook Lives, whatever, because it keeps me accountable. I know that the minute I can walk away from that moment of teaching, saying that I reached the burden of that mastery goal, I'm done.
Yeah.
I don't go beyond it, and I never stop until I'm there. That's all you have to do.
I think that's awesome. And I think, like, if we stopped here, which we're not, but if we stopped here, like, you have already delivered to me like one of the secrets that most people just don't really understand. And I think that, I mean, it's just, it really does come down to that. Number one, you have to also just be really passionate about what it is that you do. Like, you can't be in this just because you want to make money. You
Mhm.
have to be in this because you have a sincere desire, so much so that when you go and do this research and you ask these questions of what would be the turning point for this person and the mastery goal, it's because you have a sincere
Correct.
interest in that, and you have a passion, because that passion is going to be the thing that's going to be like driving you to continue to want to know that information. And so, like, if this seems like a pain in the you know what to try to get all this information, you're probably, you know, probably in it for the wrong reasons, right?
Totally. And here's the thing, like it's supposed to be hard. One of the big
Mm-hmm.
things is the barrier to entry for a business now is very low, which
Mm-hmm.
means you can be in business for 20 years and I can open up yesterday and I can have a website that is as nice, that looks as credible, that does all of the same things that it says on the tin, but there's very little way for your prospects to differentiate between us. So what happens, and this goes back to the brief of, how do you pandemic proof? How do you recession proof? How do you dip proof? How do you whatever your business? And the idea here is not earth shattering. It's as simple as ensuring that the standard of care that you're providing for those people is higher than others in your industry. Now, the way I can ensure that is I know that nobody but me or the people that I work with will go to the lengths that I go to in the research process, which means I have an exact roadmap in mind for how I can be useful or transformative for my prospects. Obviously, that is a significant force multiplier for me because
Mm-hmm.
I'm not wasting any of their time. If I can get a result in 30 minutes, I will. If it's the same problem and it takes 4 hours, that's how long that it takes, and that's fine. But I'm not spending, I'm not tying them into a 6 month long engagement for something I can solve in 30 minutes.
Right.
That wouldn't be an integrity for me.
Well, and a lot of questions that I've been hearing come up that have been answered, in that realm is like, well, like, how much should I charge for my, for my coaching, and if I offer them 12 sessions, it's like, well, why offer them 12 sessions if you could get it done in 2 sessions?
Mm-hmm.
And what they're really paying for is not the number of sessions, but they're paying for you to help them solve their problem, to get that result, to get the transformation. So, I mean, and it's really, if you think about it on both ends, it's really a more efficient way of thinking about it. Like, why do you
Correct.
want to spend, you know 12 hours of your life, solving something that can be solved in a few hours?
Correct.
And if
Yeah,
you're
I mean,
confident in your skills that you're going to get that transformation, and this is the amount of time, the most efficient way to get it done, then you can charge whatever you can charge whatever you need to charge
well,
to
like
make that
let's
work.
talk about pricing, right?
Yeah.
Because I routinely when people like there's two classes of entrepreneur that come to me, people that are just getting started out and people that have been around forever, and both of them want to join the online product space, or maybe they've even already been there but they want to improve their results, or they've heard about my methods and they want to try it out, that kind of thing. Okay. Well, every single one of them, without fail, they all come to me and I ask, okay, what's the idea? What's the price point you're thinking? The basic business model questions. And by the way, for anyone listening, of course, this is how we pandemic proof anything is good business models. Right at the beginning of this, I said, The way to survive all of these things is to build a business that would have been successful in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. Stability is not always sexy, but man, does it make 2020 a lot easier if you have these things in place. So, one of the big things that I would always focus on when it comes to the business model is how do we establish ourselves and position ourselves as a premium product, not
Mm-hmm.
just another product. I don't care what anyone else in your space is charging. Routinely, I have people, especially the beginning business owner, come to me and say, I cannot charge that much because other people in my space are only charging X.
Mm-hmm.
And that is how you engage in a race to the bottom, because all of you will price the same, and then someone will undercut and they'll win a market share. And then you'll all match them at that price, and someone else will undercut, and then they'll win the market share. And over in swings and roundabouts, we go all the way down to poverty and frustration and starting over and depression. So instead, we always aim to play above the fray. What I mean by that, everybody tells you need just go make a course, right? Go make a course, build an ebook, blah 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 blah. Start it cheap, $7 free, move to 47, then 97, and then so let's play another game of probability. Right now, the cost per acquisition on traditional, let's say Facebook ads or something like that, is often $5, $10 to get decent quality opt-ins for a coaching program, even if it's something free that you're putting at the front of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if the only way people can pay you for your premium tier stuff is by coming in on the cheap end, paying $7 and then paying 47 and then 97 and then whatever, all the way to maybe a couple thousand, the probability is that there's a significant drop off at every single step.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a high probability that very qualified people are dropping off way before they get to the tier that would probably adequately serve them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the other problem with that. The models that you're all copying, the funnels, the Russell Brunson stuff, the all that, you're copying stuff that was created when traffic was cheap.
Mm-hmm.
So why has there been a democratization of education? This is a question nobody asks themselves.
Even he's changed that model
Right,
recently.
right. So why are we preaching this need for cheap products that ascend people through the ladder, this funnelification of the entrepreneurial business? It's because when they all did it, traffic was cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I'm not saying anything negative. I mean, that like I know a lot of these guys personally, they're good people, but certainly if they had to try to use that same system to be successful and they were starting out today, it would not work at scale, because when traffic cost 5 cents per a lead, it was a heck of a lot more profitable to push free and cheap because you could play the volume game.
Yeah. Oh, I wish I could go back to those days and invest so much more money.
You and me both. You and me both.
I remember penny clicks
Mhm.
way back when like it was goto.com and it became Overture and it became, all
Yeah.
that.
and and it's amazing, right? So like the model that you're copying is now completely inefficient for the marketplace you're operating in.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you follow these models that were built in like 2013, 2014, and you're being told you're just one funnel away, and you wonder why you can't become profitable on any of your traffic, that's why you're copying something that existed in a pricing blip, right? And everything's normalized upward by literally, in some cases, thousands of percent on pricing. So the only way to compete is to not play cheap. Okay, I was just doing a room on Clubhouse about this called Stop Selling Cheap. And then, um, And the idea was
Oh, you
basically,
have to give me your clubhouse, or give our audience your clubhouse. Are you, is it
sure.
the same one as your Instagram? Is it the same?
No, it should be at Joe DeMaria.
Okay,
Um,
I'm gonna follow you.
and so, I do a room in there called Stop Selling Cheap, and I can't really swear, I'm sure, on the show, so I'm not going to. But the whole premise of that is going through and building a better business model, not price commoditizing down. I mean, if you want to be recession proof, the best way to do that is to have cash flow. If you want to have cash flow, you can't sell cheap because you're losing 50 plus percent of your margin at least every time you get a conversion because of how much it costs you to push somebody to a $7 item. And in many cases, by the time you get to $7, you've spent more money than the $7 conversion anyway.
Trust me,
Maybe you
I've
only
been there.
make it back. Yeah. And so like this whole system is set you guys up for failure. I do a
Yeah.
ton of work with entrepreneurs that are, wellness focused, spiritual focused, and they all have such heart around what they do. And the sad thing is that they've been taught so ineffectively how
Hmm.
to be successful in business. And there's so much resistance to it because they almost feel like they have to be cheap in order to be providing a real result.
Let me speak to that, because I know, a lot of people that are in my, especially in, like the spiritual entrepreneurs, there's just always, trying to get away from even just giving away your time and your
Mm-hmm.
products, and there's just like this pull. I've never related to that personally, because I came from a different background. I was
Mm-hmm.
a stockbroker, so it's like, how much money can you give me? Uh, I want the whole portfolio. Let me handle the whole thing. And I want the whole portfolio of people's minds as well. And so but when it comes to a lot of people, they're just automatically just rejecting their clients, and just, yeah, they can't afford, or rejecting themselves. They can't afford that. I can't price that at that, because they're not going to
Yeah.
pay that much. And so how can just people feel good about the prices that they're charging for their course and their time, and really charge what they're worth, or what they deserve? I mean, can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So confidence always comes from execution. So for me, I'll give like a really quick example, but like if you went to a restaurant, Valentine's Day is coming, right? So a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people are booking up. I have someone trying to book up all of these different reservations for me right now. And if I walked in on Valentine's Day with my fiance and they said only you actually, you know what, you can only have this part of the menu because I don't think you can afford the other part, you would be pretty irritated, right? And that's it. You're in the service business. You should not be making decisions on behalf of your marketplace for what they can't afford, because guess what? There are things that push people's willingness to do something, and a lot of that is pain.
Mm-hmm.
So you are underselling in situations where people might be desperate for what you do. And if you're selling it for $100 or $200, they may not view you as more credible. You may lose the price competing war because you're another also ran. And then if they're underserved by someone else, you've just betrayed your what I call, I mean, you understand the fiduciary responsibility. I think that we have basically a fiduciary responsibility as teachers as well. Like we need to show up authentically and in integrity. It's part of having ethics around what we do. If if we are underselling people who are on the brink of disaster because nobody is willing to really spend time with them and show them the solution to the problem, it doesn't matter if let's put it this way, if you're driving 100 miles per hour at a brick wall, me selling you bicycle brakes might slow down the car a little bit, but you are still going to crash. I could sell you much more expensive solutions to the breaking issue and actually create a difference. So there's so much to this conversation. And I would honestly say, if you genuinely believe, and I think everybody believes this, if you look at your spaces and your industry, there's probably tons of people, I'd say more people that are not suited to creating a real result for your prospect than people who are.
Mm-hmm.
And you are leaving them to the wolves and the jackals of, of poor coaching ethics and no results, and you're letting them, and you're contributing to the economic drain of your prospects. You're contributing to the problem. This is where, from a coaching point of view, I believe you have the moral obligation, if you can create a real result for people, to ensure that they know that you are the option they should go with. And a lot of the time, that conversation starts with the premium price point. It doesn't mean it needs to end there, but it certainly doesn't start with a free ebook. Okay. I mean, there's no differentiation. And I guarantee all of you have downloaded like dozens of ebooks and none of you have read the damn thing. So you know,
Or,
the
well, that also goes for a lot of the cheap courses. I mean, I can't tell you how many
100%.
courses, I right before the end of the year last year, I just, I wanted to spend, last year was like kind of one of my best years ever. So I needed to just like, just went on a spending free, there were all these funnels that I had saved in my Facebook ads,
Mhm.
that I wanted to go through. So I went through them all, and I just, and I bought all these courses, and I got through like half of one of them,
Mhm.
and that's it. And it's like I changed my goal.
Well,
My
like,
goal is not to get in all these different directions, but
and it shouldn't be like, so this is a thing that people bring to me all the time. And this is another big moment for most of the people I work with, which is everyone is addicted to the tactic. Oh
yeah.
my God, I need a webinar. I need an ebook. I need Facebook ads. I need a better Instagram account. Oh my God, I want the swipe up feature. I need.
Yeah,
And you,
addicted to the tactic. I like that.
so I always equate it to this, right? It's like spending all year. I mean, 364 days of the year, you're in the store and you're buying ornaments and tinsel for your Christmas tree, and you never buy the damn tree.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's focused on tactics and nobody thinks about the strategy.
Yes.
And that's it. I mean, the things that people are selling you on Facebook ads and on Instagram and on stage, they're all tactics. What you have often failed to do is really ensure that they're aligned with your strategic intent. Now, for me, I'll give you an example of what that means. I have built a very successful company without focusing on social media ever. I built a great brand and a lot of revenue without speaking from the stage. I did all of these things based on relationships. So my strategic intent was to create as much relationship leverage as possible. And when people come to me and they say, Joe, you need a webinar. Hey, you need to get 10,000 people on Instagram. Hey, you need to build this platform out. Hey, you need to speak on my stage. I go, okay, are these things in alignment with my strategic intent? And if they are not, I don't waste time, money, energy, human capital, resources of any kind on those things. They're just not aligned. But when somebody says, hey, I've got a group of people, they're all struggling with X, would you be willing to come and do a quick workshop? Yeah, I can. That's a relationship thing that I can leverage. Hey, I got somebody that's really struggling. Can I introduce them to you? And will you just jump on with them for, even if it's an hour and a half, and just talk them through the problem? Yes, absolutely. Because for me, relationship is the longest lever that you can pull. I'll tell your audience here, I don't care what industry you're in. If you're in the spiritual space, health space, wellness space, fitness, if you're in Amazon FBA or whatever the hell you're doing, you're in the leverage business.
Absolutely. What can I
Every
do for the least amount of effort?
right. And
How can
every
I get the
decision, well, every decision you make gives you more leverage or less leverage. And
Mhm.
when you start chasing tactics that use your time, money, and energy, but they don't deliver anything in return, you are decreasing significantly your leverage as a business owner. Now, if you look the other direction, I'll tell you, Archimedes said, give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum on which to place it, and I shall move the world.
Ooh,
And what
wow.
I'm looking for is the Archimedes lever. And for me, that's always relationship. And that means all my decisions, all my marketing, all my branding, everything that I do is focused on relationship. Like, why do I do office hours every week? Why have I done it 70 plus, almost 80 weeks in a row without never missing a session, even on like holidays? And when I feel terrible, I've done it with food poisoning, for example. You know, why do I do that? It's an opportunity for me to create relationship capital. It allows me to generate insane amounts of referral business, which allows me to not need to go run Facebook ads, to not need to go waste my time on stage, to not need to go invest in the Instagram account. I get to do the things that I like to do. So,
I
very,
this has been absolutely just invaluable information. I mean, we could go on and on. We could probably go on for the next 4 hours and just continue diving deeper and deeper and deeper into all of this. This has been really, really very insightful, very informative, and um, and I am gonna kind of leave the audience hanging a little bit for some more because I think that they you've got something that nobody else is talking about, and you really honestly like this is you know refreshing is the word I've been looking for.
thank you.
Extremely refreshing. And I think more and more people, everyone needs to hear more from you and what you've got to share. So tell our audience briefly how they can get a little more of you in your office hours and what that is all about.
Yeah, well, and thank you. I mean, it's humbling to hear you say that. For 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 me, I mean, the biggest thing is relationship. And so I started doing this thing called office hours in the middle of like before the pandemic ever hit, before any of this stuff happened, because I saw how many entrepreneurs that were just starting out that really needed my stuff, but they could not really afford our super premium. Um, and at the time we weren't doing group coachings, we weren't doing anything. I was working with exclusively high-end entrepreneurs, and I started doing this thing called office hours, where every Friday, 8 a.m. Pacific, I get on Zoom, right? I will sit there and I will do open Q&A, or I will just teach, or I will just work with whoever is in the room. And often it's 20 people or 30 people that'll show up and they'll get all their questions answered. And I tell people all the time that if you just show up to office hours consistently, eventually you will learn everything I have to teach, right? I don't pull punches, I don't hold things back, as you probably figured out from this conversation. So if you are interested, or if you like what I had to say here, I do that every week, 2 hours a week on Fridays. Just go to tryofficehours.com and drop your email in. The only reason I'm asking you to put your email in is so I have a place to send the Zoom link every week. Otherwise, you're going to have to let me know where to send a carrier pigeon or a message in a bottle, or whatever else that.
Right,
So
I gotcha.
try office hours is a great way to catch us, or Clubhouse. We're doing rooms in there every week now. And we're genuinely trying to raise the standard of education.
And your clubhouse is at Joe DeMaria.
It should be at Joe DeMaria. And I'll say for our Instagram, it did get updated. We got
Oh,
banned for a tirade on education. So we had
oh
to
no.
restart one, which is Teach to Scale Joe. So Teach to Scale Joe is the new Instagram post education rant ban. So, um, and that looks like it is, yeah, at Joe is the clubhouse. So, thank you so much for having me. And I can tell how much intention and how much integrity you have around what you're doing here, how much you care about your audience. And I think it's a total credit to who you are and what you've built. And it's been a pleasure to be your number 150.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show and learn from you and share this information with the Power of Your Mind podcast listeners. So thank you so much for being on the show.